There's a year in every single person's life, a year unlike any other, a year that changes everything. It's not the year you finally snag that dream job, the one you've been working towards. It's not the year you stumble upon that earth-shattering, undeniable love. It's certainly not the year brimming with easy wins, with constant celebrations, with superficial achievements. No, it's something altogether different. It's the year when everything falls apart. It's the year a seemingly unbreakable marriage crumbles into dust, the year your health spins violently, out of control. The year your career, the thing you defined yourself by, implodes. The year you catch your reflection and find yourself staring at a stranger. Carl Jung, the pioneering psychiatrist, spent decades dissecting this very phenomenon. What he uncovered challenges everything that modern society, with its relentless pursuit of achievement, drills into our heads about success and its supposed opposite, failure. He discovered that this year of profound unraveling, is no accident. Your soul, you chose it. Even before you took your first breath on this earth, before you had any say in the matter, your soul knew this moment, this period of immense difficulty, was coming. It didn't just know, it planned it. It chose it. It determined that at some point on your earthly journey, everything would have to fall. And Andrew Huberman, the renowned neuroscientist and professor at Stanford, confirms this from an entirely different, a purely scientific perspective. The human nervous system, the very architecture of our brains, is designed to grow through collapse, not in spite of it, but through it. This isn't some airy-fairy metaphor. It's hard, cold biology. When you're enduring what feels like the absolute worst year of your life, something extraordinary, something almost miraculous, is happening deep inside your brain. Neural connections, pathways you've forged over a lifetime, are being dismantled. Old patterns, behaviors that no longer serve you, are dying. And in the space that remains, something new, something stronger, is being born. Jung famously termed this nigredo, the black phase, the dark night of the soul, the first stage in the alchemical transformation of the soul. The medieval alchemists, those mystical practitioners of old, understood that to transform lead, a base metal, into gold, the most precious of elements, you first had to completely destroy the original structure of the lead, to reduce it to primordial chaos, to utter nothingness. Your soul works in precisely the same way. You cannot become who you are truly meant to be, while you're still clinging to the illusion, to the false identity of who you thought you were. And that is why the year everything falls apart is so utterly devastating. It's not just your external life that's crumbling around you. It's the entire structure of your identity, everything you've built on shaky, unsound foundations, everything you believed to be true about yourself. Jung himself wrote that there is no birth of consciousness without pain. Read that. As again, there is no birth of consciousness without pain. Modern society tries to peddle us the lie that personal evolution can happen through motivational podcasts and relaxing weekends at overpriced spas, that you can magically transform yourself by reading self-help books and mindlessly repeating positive affirmations into a mirror. Jung would have laughed at that notion. He knew that true transformation, the kind that rewires you at a fundamental level, happens in the fire, in the tears, in the lonely nights where sleep evades you because the pain is simply too much to bear, in the moments when you scream into the uncaring void of the universe, demanding to know why. And it's precisely in those moments, those agonizing, desperate moments, that your soul is closest to awakening. Huberman, ever the pragmatist, meticulously explains the mechanism behind this. When you're facing extreme stress, the kind that threatens to overwhelm you, your body unleashes a cascade of powerful neurotransmitters. Adrenaline, cortisol, norepinephrine. Most people, conditioned by our fear-mongering culture, view these substances as inherently negative, as if your body is somehow betraying you, as if it's failing. But Huberman demonstrates that these very substances, the ones we've been taught to fear now, are precisely what unlocks neuroplasticity, the brain's incredible ability to rewire itself, to form entirely new pathways, to literally become a different brain. You cannot grow in comfort. Your brain, your nervous system, wasn't designed to evolve in a padded cell, in a perpetually safe space. It was designed to evolve under pressure, under stress, under circumstances that feel impossibly unbearable, and that is why your soul, that mysterious architect of your destiny, chose. This year, it knew that you needed to be broken in order to be rebuilt, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. Jung, ever the master of profound terminology, had a term for this very process. He called it individuation, the painstaking, often excruciating process of becoming who you really are, of integrating all the fragmented, scattered pieces of your psyche, of confronting your shadow and embracing the totality, the messy, imperfect, glorious totality of your being. But individuation does not happen on sun-drenched afternoons. It happens in the dark night of the soul. Saint John of the Cross, the Spanish mystic, coined that haunting term centuries ago. He described it as a state of utter spiritual abandonment, a moment when even God seems to have turned his back on you, where there is no light, no hope, no nothing, but the hollow echo of emptiness. Jung recognized this as a universal psychological stage. It doesn't matter your religion or your lack thereof. It doesn't matter your culture or your origin. Every single human being who undergoes a profound transformation walks through this desolate, isolating night. And the night is not the problem. The night is the solution. It's in the total, unflinching darkness that your eyes finally learn to see for real. Think about that. For a moment, when you're in a brightly lit environment, your eyes become accustomed, addicted to the light. They become incapable of perceiving the subtle nuances of the shadows, the delicate dance of twilight. The stars, those distant beacons of hope, become invisible. The depth, the richness, that disappears. But when you step into the darkness and remain there, something magical happens. Your pupils dilate, expanding to capture every available photon of light. New receptors are activated, awakening dormant senses. And suddenly, miraculously, you begin to see things that were always there, but that the blinding glare of the light prevented you from perceiving. Your soul works in precisely the same way. While your life was running smoothly, while everything seemed fine on the surface, while you were chasing empty achievements and plastering on fake smiles, you were blind to essential truths about yourself, blind to the destructive patterns you were mindlessly repeating, blind to the toxic relationships you were tolerating, blind to the dreams you were betraying and abandoning. The year everything falls apart, violently rips that blindness away from you. Suddenly, there's no more pretending, no more hiding behind hollow accomplishments and forced smiles, no more avoiding the questions that your soul has always desperately wanted to ask. Who? Am I? Really? What? Do I? Truly? Want? Why? Am I living this life? That doesn't even feel like my own. Huberman also speaks about the concept of stress inoculation, the idea that controlled exposure to stress increases your capacity to handle future stress. It's like a vaccine for the soul. But there's a crucial difference between the stress you choose and the stress that life imposes. The stress you choose, like intense workouts or deliberately uncomfortable cold plunges, strengthens your nervous system. Gradually, incrementally, you're in control. You can stop whenever you want. The stress that life imposes, the year everything falls apart, offers no such luxury, no such escape hatch. You can't simply quit. You can't press pause. You can't decide that you've had enough. And it's precisely because of that it transforms you so profoundly. Jung himself wrote extensively about his own personal breakdown in memories, dreams, reflections. For years, he faced what felt like the complete and utter disintegration of his mind, visions, voices, altered states, that pushed him to the very brink of madness. Many would have checked themselves into a psychiatric hospital. Jung did something radically different. He deliberately and consciously descended into the inferno of his own psyche. He confronted the demons. He dialogued with the voices. He meticulously recorded everything in his now famous Red Book. And on the other side of that harrowing, terrifying journey, he emerged not just healed, but completely transformed. The groundbreaking theories that revolutionized the field of psychology were born from that period of absolute, unflinching darkness. There's a year in everyone's life, a year that absolutely shatters everything you thought you knew. We call it the unraveling year. It's not the year you finally snag that dream job you've always wanted. It's not the year you find that once-in-a-lifetime true love. It's definitely not a year defined by constant achievements and celebrations. No. It's the year when everything collapses around you. It's the year your marriage starts to crumble into dust. The year your health unexpectedly takes a terrifying nosedive. The year your career completely implodes and burns to the ground. The year you catch your reflection in the mirror and no longer recognize the stranger staring back at you. The renowned Carl Jung. He dedicated decades of his life to meticulously studying this very phenomenon. And what he discovered absolutely flies in the face of everything modern society tries to drill into our heads about success and failure. Get ready, because we're about to take a deep dive into that dark, transformative year. Now, at first, the tone might feel a little ominous, a little dark, but trust me, we're ultimately aiming for hope, emphasizing incredible growth and resilience. We want this journey to feel both deeply scientific and incredibly personal, fully acknowledging the pain that comes with these experiences, while also showcasing their unbelievable potential for profound change. And when the emotional moment feels right, we'll bring in that powerful visual metaphor of a phoenix majestically rising from the ashes. That annus horribilis, that year from hell, it ultimately has the potential to become your annus mirabilis, your year of miracles. That horrible year can transform into the year of miracles, and that's not despite the suffering. It's actually because of it. Deep down, your soul inherently knows this. Even if your conscious mind is screaming in protest, even if every single cell in your body is desperately yelling that this shouldn't be happening to you, your soul, it actually chose this year for you because it saw something that you're just not quite able to see yet. It saw the incredible person you're fully capable of becoming. It envisioned the version of you that exists on the other side of this storm, the version that's completely fearless, the version that knows its own indomitable strength. The version that is finally free from all those chains that you didn't even realize you were dragging around. But in order to reach that empowered version of yourself, it was absolutely essential to completely dismantle the old one first. Andrew Huberman, the brilliant neuroscientist. He explains this in fascinating neurological terms. The human brain. It's incredibly conservative by nature. It fiercely resists change. Because any kind of change requires significant energy expenditure. It's simply more efficient for the brain to maintain the existing patterns, even if those patterns are actively destroying you. And that's precisely why so many people stay stuck in soul-crushing jobs they despise, trapped in relationships that constantly diminish their worth, living in cities that don't even remotely align with who they truly are. The brain will always stubbornly prefer the familiar, even when that familiar is incredibly toxic, to the uncertainty of the unknown. So, to effectively break those deeply ingrained patterns, something truly dramatic needs to happen. The nervous system needs to receive a signal, a jolt, that is so overwhelmingly powerful, so utterly impossible to ignore, that there's absolutely no other option left but to change. The year everything falls apart, that is that signal. It's your brain finally receiving the message that your soul has been desperately trying to send in 1,000 gentler ways, all of which you consistently ignored. Jung, he famously called this the compensation of the unconscious. When your conscious mind veers too far off the path that your soul has carefully mapped out, your unconscious will actively intervene. First, with subtle whispers, strange and unsettling dreams, inexplicable physical symptoms, a nagging and persistent feeling that something is just fundamentally wrong. But if you stubbornly ignore those initial whispers, they inevitably escalate into piercing screams, and if you continue to ignore the screams, they ultimately transform into earth-shattering earthquakes. The year everything falls apart. That is the final earthquake. It's your own soul staging a dramatic intervention to forcefully shove you back onto the correct path. Now, that doesn't for 1 second diminish the fact that the pain is incredibly real. It is absolutely real. When you lose someone you deeply love, when your health suddenly starts to fail you, when your finances inexplicably collapse, when your entire sense of identity shatters into 1,000,000 pieces, the pain is incredibly visceral, it's profoundly physical, and at times, it genuinely feels like it might actually kill you. But the pain, it also has a vital purpose. Huberman often talks about the crucial difference between pain and suffering. Pain is the raw sensation, the signal from your nervous system indicating that something is actively happening. Suffering, on the other hand, is the complex narrative that we construct around the pain. The story we tell ourselves about what it all means. You absolutely cannot avoid the intense pain of the year everything falls apart. But you do get to choose the narrative. You can choose to see it as a form of punishment, as definitive proof that the universe is inherently cruel and unfair, as undeniable evidence that you simply don't deserve good things in your life. Or you can choose to see it as an initiation, as the carefully orchestrated rite of passage that your soul has meticulously planned out for you, as the alchemical furnace where the heavy lead of your old life is being transmuted into the pure gold of your new existence. The narrative you choose utterly changes everything. Jung intrinsically understood this. He famously wrote that we are not defined by what happens to us, but rather by what we choose to do with what happens to us. And Huberman neurologically confirms this. The narrative you tell yourself about your stress, it literally changes how your body processes that stress on a biological level. Individuals who view challenges as opportunities for growth experience entirely different hormonal responses than those who perceive challenges as imminent threats. Same exact event, completely different biological reactions. And it all hinges on the story you consciously choose to tell yourself. So let me ask you directly, are you currently going through your own year everything falls apart right now? Or maybe you've already weathered that storm. Maybe you're on the other side, looking back and still trying to make sense of everything that happened. Either way, there's something absolutely critical that you need to know. You are not broken. You are actually being rebuilt. There's a fundamental difference between those two perspectives. One inevitably leads to utter despair. The other unequivocally leads to enduring hope. Jung described three distinct stages in the alchemical transformation of the soul. The first is nigredo, the black phase that I mentioned earlier. This is the period of intense destruction, of utter chaos, of the symbolic death of everything you previously knew to be true. But nigredo is not the end. It's actually only the beginning. The second stage is albedo, the white phase. This is when the light slowly begins to return, when you start to see glimmers of clarity where there was once only confusion and darkness, when the very first signs of the incredible person you are destined to become start to tentatively emerge from the ashes. And finally, there's rubedo, the red phase, the complete integration, the pivotal moment when the gold is finally revealed. When you look at yourself and no longer see fragmented pieces, but rather a whole, complete, and utterly transformed being. Huberman describes something remarkably similar in neurological terms. Following a period of intense stress, the brain enters what he refers to as the consolidation phase. This is when the new neural connections that were forged during the stressful period are actively strengthened and fully integrated. This is when that neuroplasticity, that ability of the brain to change and adapt, becomes permanent. But this critical consolidation only happens if you allow it to happen, if you actively fight against the entire process, if you desperately try to cling to who you were before, if you resist the transformation with every single fiber of your being. The brain simply cannot consolidate those vital changes. It's like trying to heal a deep wound while constantly picking at it. The healing process is endlessly interrupted, the transformation remains incomplete, and you ultimately end up trapped in a painful limbo between who you once were and who you were truly capable of becoming. Jung famously called this neurosis, the agonizing state of being divided against yourself, of one part of you desperately wanting to evolve and grow, while another part stubbornly clings to the past. This internal division is the true source of profound psychological suffering. It's not the year everything falls apart that causes you to suffer. It's the resistance to what that year is desperately trying to teach you. Think about animals in the wild. When a lion relentlessly chases a gazelle, the gazelle enters an extreme state of stress. Adrenaline floods its entire body. Its heart races uncontrollably. Every single muscle prepares to either fight or flee. But if the gazelle manages to escape, something fascinating happens. It immediately stops. It trembles violently for a few minutes. And then, it calmly goes back to grazing as if absolutely nothing had happened. That trembling. It's the nervous system effectively releasing all that pent-up stress, completing the cycle, allowing the body to return to a state of equilibrium. Humans, we've sadly lost this innate ability. When something truly terrible happens, we don't naturally tremble and move on. Instead, we carefully store the stress. We deliberately lock it away deep inside. We desperately pretend that everything is perfectly fine when absolutely nothing is fine. And that stored stress relentlessly accumulates over time, until one day, the entire system inevitably collapses. The year everything falls apart is frequently the moment when decades of stored stress finally demand to be released. Huberman frequently talks about the immense importance of completing the stress cycle, of allowing your body to fully process everything that you're feeling, of not repressing, but genuinely expressing. It might look like crying until there are no tears left. It might look like screaming into a pillow. It might look like shaking with rage, or fear, or grief. Whatever form it takes. Expression is essential, because it's through this release that the nervous system recalibrates, that the brain understands the danger has passed, that the transformation can finally complete itself. Carl Jung used to say, "What you resist persists, and what you look at directly transforms." During the year, everything falls apart. You will be tempted to resist, to fight, to desperately try to rebuild the structures that are collapsing around you. to cling tightly to everything that's slipping through your fingers. Don't do it. Let it fall. Let it crumble. Let what needs to die, die. Because on the other side of that symbolic death, something magnificent is waiting to be born. Something that can only exist because the old was destroyed. Something your soul always knew you could become. Andrew Huberman explains that the human brain is capable of extraordinary change at any age. The idea that we're defined by our early years and that we can't change after that is simply false. Neuroplasticity exists throughout our entire lives, but it needs a catalyst. And the year everything falls apart, the unraveling year, is the most powerful catalyst there is. Jung often said that there's no light without shadow, and no psychic wholeness without imperfection. We are creatures that harbor both the divine and the demonic, and it's only through confronting our darkest parts that we can achieve our brightest light. The year everything falls apart forces you to confront everything you've avoided, all the lies you've told yourself, all the fears you pretended not to have, all the parts of yourself you tried to hide from the world and from yourself. And in that confrontation, something paradoxical happens. You discover that the parts you feared most were precisely the parts you most needed to integrate. That your shadow wasn't your enemy, but an aspect of yourself waiting to be acknowledged. That your demons were actually angels in disguise. Huberman talks about the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. The sympathetic is responsible for the fight or flight response. The parasympathetic for the rest and digest response. Most people experiencing this collapse live permanently in sympathetic overdrive, heart racing, muscles tense, mind constantly on high alert. It's as if the lion is always chasing you, even when there is no lion. Part of the transformation is learning to activate the parasympathetic again, to breathe deeply, to allow the body to relax, to trust that, despite everything that's happening, you are safe. You will survive. You will emerge on the other side. Jung called this the transcendent function, the psyche's ability to hold opposites in creative tension, to be both strong and vulnerable, both active and receptive, both fighting and surrendering. The year everything falls apart is when you learn this dance. It's when you discover that you don't need to choose between resisting and giving up. That there's a third path, the path of conscious transformation. You don't resist what's happening, but you also don't give up on yourself. You remain present. You observe. You feel everything that needs to be felt. And you trust that this process, however painful, is leading you exactly where you need to go. Huberman described a practice he calls the physiological sigh. 2 short breaths in through the nose, followed by a long exhale through the mouth. It's the fastest way to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, to tell your body that the danger has passed. Use it whenever the pain seems unbearable, whenever panic threatens to engulf you, whenever you feel like you can't take it for one more second. 2 short breaths in, 1 long breath out. And remember, your soul chose this, not because it wanted to see you suffer, but because it knew that on the other side of this suffering, there exists a version of you that is worth any price. Carl Jung went through hell and emerged as the father of analytical psychology. His ideas influenced not only psychology, but art, literature, spirituality, practically every aspect of modern culture. None of that would have been possible without the year everything fell apart. None of that would have been possible without the dark night of the soul. And the same is true for you. I don't know what your calling is. I don't know what unique contribution you're destined to make in this world. I don't know who you're going to become when you emerge from the other side of this storm. But I know one thing. It will be magnificent. It will be something the old version of you could never have achieved. It will be something that can only exist because you went through this fire. It will be something that makes all the suffering worth it. Huberman talks about the concept of anti-fragility. Some systems are fragile. They break under pressure. Other systems are resilient. They withstand pressure without changing. But the most remarkable systems are anti-fragile. They not only withstand pressure, They become stronger because of it. Your soul is anti-fragile. Every challenge you face makes it stronger. Every pain you process makes it wiser. Every dark night you endure brings you closer to the light. And that's the secret that Jung discovered, and that Huberman confirms. The year everything falls apart isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning. It's the portal. It's the initiation. It's the moment when your true life finally begins. So, if you're going through this right now, I want you to know, you are exactly where you need to be. No matter how impossible it seems, no matter how lost you feel, no matter how many sleepless nights you've spent wondering why this is happening, your soul knows what it's doing. And when you emerge on the other side, when the light finally returns, when you look back and see the path you've walked, you will understand. You'll understand that this was the most important year of your life, the year your soul chose, the year that changed everything, the year that transformed you into who you truly are. And you will be grateful, not for the pain itself, but for what the pain made possible, for the person you became, for the life you can now live, for the soul that has finally awakened. Jung dedicated his life to studying this process. Huberman dedicates his to understanding the neuroscience behind it, and both arrive at the same fundamental conclusion. The collapse is the path. Destruction is the doorway to creation. Death is the prelude to rebirth. And you, at this very moment, are in the midst of this sacred journey. Keep going. Don't give up. Your soul chose this for a reason. And that reason will reveal itself. Sooner than you think. At the exact moment, you're ready to see it. Now, I want to share something that very few people truly understand about the process of transformation. There's a specific moment when everything shifts. Carl Jung called it Kairos. The ancient Greeks distinguished between chronos, the linear time that ticks by, second after second, and kairos, the supreme moment, the instant when something decisive happens. In the year everything falls apart, there is a kairos moment. It might seem like an ordinary moment, a casual conversation, a sudden insight, a night when you finally stop fighting and simply accept things as they are. But in that moment, something inside you changes permanently. It's the moment when you stop being a victim and start becoming an alchemist. It's the moment when you stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" It's the moment when your soul finally gets through to you because you're finally willing to listen. Andrew Huberman describes this in neurological terms as an inflection point, the moment when the brain stops resisting and starts actively reorganizing itself, when neuroplasticity stops being a threat and becomes a tool. You'll recognize this moment when it arrives. Something inside you will relax, not because the external situation has changed, not because the problems have disappeared, not because the pain has lessened, but because you've changed your relationship with everything. Carl Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That phrase deserves to be read again. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The year everything unravels is when the unconscious forces its way into consciousness. When everything you've repressed, avoided, denied, finally demands to be seen. It's painful because you're seeing parts of yourself that you never wanted to see. But it's liberating because you finally have the chance to integrate them. Andrew Huberman talks about the importance of naming emotions. Studies show that simply giving a name to what you're feeling reduces the intensity of the emotion. It activates the prefrontal cortex. It restores a sense of control. During the year everything falls apart, practice this. I am afraid. I am angry. I am grieving. I am lost. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to run away, just name it. Carl Jung developed a practice, that he called active imagination, a way to consciously dialogue with the figures in your unconscious, to give voice to the aspects of yourself that normally remain silent during his own crises. Jung would converse with his visions. He would ask questions, listen to the answers, treat the contents of his unconscious as real entities with their own wisdom. This might sound crazy, but it worked. And it worked because Jung understood something fundamental. The unconscious is not your enemy, it's an ally. That speaks a different language, a language of images, symbols, and emotions. The year everything falls apart is your unconscious screaming, and now it's up to you to learn how to listen. Andrew Huberman explains that the human brain processes information on multiple levels simultaneously. There's the conscious level, where you think in words and logic, but there are also deeper levels, more ancient evolutionarily, that process in patterns and intuitions. These deeper levels often know things that the conscious level hasn't yet realized, and they try to communicate these things in various ways: dreams, physical symptoms, unexplained emotions. And when none of that works, existential crises. The year everything falls apart is your own brain's last resort to capture your attention. And now, you have a choice. You can continue ignoring it. You can try to rebuild exactly the same life you had before. You can pretend it was just a bad period and move on without changing anything. Many people do that, and 5 years later, 10 years later, the same crisis returns, bigger, more devastating, more impossible to ignore. Or you can listen. You can use this crisis as the portal that it really is. You can emerge on the other side, not as the same person with a tragic story, but as a completely different person, transformed, integrated, whole. Carl Jung believed that every human being has a self with a capital S, not the ego, which is just the conscious part of the psyche, but the self, which encompasses the totality of who you are, conscious and unconscious, light and shadow, known and mysterious. The goal of life, for Jung, was the realization of this self, and that realization only happens through crises. Andrew Huberman confirms this. The human brain, left to its own devices, tends towards stagnation. It finds patterns that work well enough and repeats them indefinitely. Growth requires disruption. It requires something to throw the system out of equilibrium. And that's what the year everything falls apart does. It disrupts everything. And in that disruption, there's the possibility of reorganization at a higher level of functioning. I want you to think about a butterfly. Everyone knows the story. The caterpillar enters the chrysalis, and after a while, a butterfly emerges. But few know what really happens inside the chrysalis. The caterpillar doesn't simply grow wings. It dissolves completely. It becomes a biological soup, an undifferentiated mass of cells. Everything that defined it as a caterpillar is destroyed. And from that total destruction, that absolute death of the previous form, the butterfly organizes itself, not as an improved caterpillar, as something completely new. You're in the chrysalis now, the feeling that you're dissolving, that everything that defined you is disappearing, that you no longer know who you are. That's not a problem. That's the process. Carl Jung frequently used the image of the phoenix, the mythical bird that dies in flames and is reborn from its own ashes. But the phoenix can't be reborn without first dying completely. And that's the secret that no one tells you. The death has to be complete. If you try to save parts of your old identity, if you cling to fragments of who you were, If you resist the dissolution, the butterfly can't form. You get stuck in the chrysalis, neither caterpillar nor butterfly, just a deformed creature that can neither crawl nor fly. Andrew Huberman talks about competitive plasticity, the idea that old and new neural connections compete for resources. If the old ones remain strong, the new ones can't establish themselves. To really change, you need to let what was die. That's terrifying. Possibly the most terrifying thing a human being can do. Letting go of the identity you've built over decades. The ego you've carefully cultivated, the persona you presented to the world, the mask you wore, but it's the only way. And your soul, your deepest self, knows this. That's why it chose this year, because it knew you were ready. Even if you don't feel ready, even if every cell in your body screams that you're not ready, your soul has a broader perspective. It sees not just where you are, but where you can become. It sees not just the pain of the moment, but the growth that pain will make possible. And it chose this moment because it's the right moment. Carl Jung wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Read that again. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. The year everything falls apart, the unraveling year, is when that privilege finally becomes possible, when the masks fall, when the lies are revealed, when you can finally see the truth about yourself, and from that truth, however painful, freedom is born. The freedom to live authentically, the freedom to love truly, the freedom to express yourself fully, the freedom you've always sought, but could never find while trapped in that old identity. Andrew Huberman concludes his research on stress and resilience with a crucial observation. The people who best recover from trauma aren't those who pretend nothing happened, nor are they those who permanently define themselves by the trauma. They are the ones who integrate the experience, who recognize it as part of their story, without allowing it to become their entire identity, who use the pain as fuel for growth, without becoming addicted to the pain itself, who emerge not as victim, but as survivors, not as survivors, but as warriors, not as warriors, but as wise men and women. That's the path your soul has laid out for you. That's the destiny the unraveling year is revealing. And you will get there. I don't know when. I don't know how. I don't know what the specific next steps of your journey will be. But I know you will get there, because your soul wouldn't have chosen this if you weren't capable of making it through. Carl Jung went through hell and became Jung. Your own journey is just beginning, and on the other side of that darkness, a light is waiting, a light that is uniquely yours, a light that only you can bring to the world, a light that will make it all worthwhile. Keep walking, keep going. Your soul chose this, and it knows what it's doing.